This week's episode of the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast is brought to you by BioPro. Use the link down below plus code GDGD upon checkout, along with Hidden House Coffee. Go to hiddenhousecoffee.com and use code GDGD on your checkout to receive a discount. Now, enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ben.
And today we have a guest that we don't know, which is always so exciting. Paul and I connected over social media. He was Cameron, one of our previous guests, previous strength and conditioning coaches. But Paul Oneid is a little bit about his background. Was a strength and conditioning coach at various NCAA Division I programs. He is the founder of Master Athletic Performance and founder of Coach's Corner, both of which I will throw down in the show notes. But Paul, welcome to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast.
I appreciate you guys having me. It was, like I mentioned, it was pretty cool to see the man that Cam has grown into, especially knowing him as a junior college transfer from California over to Pittsburgh and how he was back then and you know, the man he's become now. I definitely resonate with a lot of what he was saying, and it's really special to me. You know, it makes me feel like an old guy for sure, but but it is always special to see the growth and development of these young men as they go into the community and impact others.
Heck yeah.
It's actually kind of funny because you said, you're like, oh, I used to be Cam's coach, and I'm not tooting your horn, but I looked at it, I was like, dude, there's no way this guy was old enough to be Cam's coach.
Oh,
that's true, dude. How the heck old are you?
I'm 38.
Oh, same here.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think I was like 23, 24 when I was working with Cam.
Okay.
Which, if you think about that age,
That's
though,
crazy.
because they're college too, like, dude, at 23, 24, you're still like figuring out who the heck you are too. But like sometimes you have to act as if you're like, no, dude, I know who I am. I have it figured out. But when I think of me as 23, 24, I'm nowhere near the same person as I am today.
Oh, I'm in the same boat, man. When I was still a kid. I was in my second master's degree when I was working with Cam. You know, didn't have any relationships. I was living on my own. Thought I had it all figured out, and looking back, I made so many mistakes in the way that I related to these young men, and knowing the lessons that I have now. I mean, hindsight's 20/20. You can't change anything. But I was very much, I know everything. You're a kid. This is what you need to do. And I was purely focused on the athletic performance aspect. And it was while I was working at Robert Morris with my boss, Todd Hammer. He's the one who taught me about how important it is to care for the people that you're working with. And learning that level of empathy at that point in my career was paramount to the work that followed. And I mean, I'm 38 years old, and I think about all the different chapters of my life as a man, as a partner, and now as a husband, soon to be father. It's like that was so important for me to go through and make those mistakes and learn those lessons, because now I can teach others, and I do it every day.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's what it's all about.
Oh, 100%.
That's literally what it's all about. But before we get further, tell us about yourself, who you are, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so as you guys mentioned, I was a collegiate strength and conditioning coach for 5 years. I worked at a couple different schools in the U.S., University of South Florida, Robert Morris, where I met Cam, and then down at the University of Tampa. I did 2 master's degrees, one in exercise science and one in sports management. And then I was the first full-time collegiate strength and conditioning coach in Canada. Canada is way behind in collegiate sports, so that was back in 2014, 2015. I competed in powerlifting at a very high level. At one point, I was ranked in the top 10 all time in 2 different weight classes at one time. I've competed in bodybuilding, and now my athletic pursuits are taking me in a bit of a different direction, more towards fitness, shooting sports, and I'll be competing in the tactical games in 2026. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina with my wife, Olivia. We have 3 dogs, and we actually just moved here from Canada. We made the move to freedom and a different life. And our businesses are purely focused on the mission of raising the bar. So our mission for Master Athletic Performance is to raise the bar for coaching, to set a standard for what working with people should be and helping them elevate themselves through health and fitness, using that as a vehicle. And then my mission for Coaches Corner University, which is an education platform for other coaches where I also do mentorship, is to raise the bar for the industry of coaching. The way I word it is I help people build better versions of themselves through their business. And then I transfer that mission of raising the bar to myself, whether it be raising the bar for myself as a husband, as an athlete, as a mentor, as a coach, and just trying to seek that next level of personal development in everything that I do.
That's awesome.
Dang. There's a lot of a lot of stuff in there.
So much in there.
Dude, we love the podcast where we don't know people. Jordan has said it so many times where we actually intentionally sometimes when we don't know someone, try not to talk too much because that's how these real, genuine conversations happen, you know?
For sure.
And yeah, dude, it's always a trip, but like totally off subject. Do you know Tyler Schwartz?
I don't.
He's down in somewhere in Florida, but he does the tactical games and is
cool.
super jacked and into fitness. But he was a guest on the podcast, and we didn't know who he was either. And
Cool.
I'm sure we got to do an introduction
Yeah,
with the both
we'll
of you.
find a way to introduce you guys.
I'd love that. Yeah.
That dude he's gone through every injury, everything you can think of, and has rehabbed his entire body. But
Same.
the one common thing that we're seeing is like the resilience that it takes to actually do that. How about you speak a little bit into that? Because you've been around coaching for, the last, 10 years now?
20.
And 20 years. So
Yeah.
let's kind of talk into what you see in your sphere of what it takes to actually elevate yourself.
So one of the beautiful things about fitness as a just a general endeavor is it is manufactured hardship. So we have so many things in our lives that are really easy to get, whether it be Uber Eats or the dopamine hit from your phone when you unlock your screen and go to social media. Life is very easy. And we only grow on the surface. If you look at, pure physiological adaptation takes place when your body is exposed to a stress. It has an adaptation and then you get a response. And the response is specific to whatever that stress was. So if you're consistently exposed to easy stuff, the adaptation is you get lazy and you detrain because your body isn't challenged. So I always viewed fitness as a direct input-output relationship. It's one of the only things where if you go in and you work really hard, you immediately see the benefits of it. Mm-hmm. If I go in and I train really hard, I'm going to get stronger in whatever that I do. I'm going to gain more muscle. There's a direct input-output relationship. And seeking out manufactured hardship, whether it be endurance sport, strength sport, bodybuilding, which I would argue is very mentally challenging. And a lot of the lifters are mentally challenged. You come out on the other end a better person, having learned lessons.
It's true.
And I've competed across a various number of sports now, and it is the perfect vehicle for developing yourself as a human because it teaches you to endure. It teaches you that hardships lead to positive outcomes. And so when I talk about raising the bar, one of the pillars is continuing to seek new challenges. I mentioned I'm going to be competing in the tactical games. I ran more miles in my first week of running, which was literally 5 total miles of running in my first week, than I had in potentially the previous 15 years.
Yeah, that would be
So you talk about seeking a new challenge, becoming a beginner again. And this is coming off the back of, I've torn so many muscles in my body, I can't keep count. A year and a half ago, almost to the day, I tore both my quads and was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks.
Oh,
And in that time frame, I've competed in a bodybuilding show.
Oof.
So like that to me is, I have to walk the walk first and foremost. And I use myself as an example a lot because I need to be the standard to which those who work under me are striving to become. And that is a big motivator for me to always stay on my game. If I fall off or if I'm not walking the walk, why would anyone listen to anything I have to say? You mentioned injuries. Like I tore both my quads in like a fluke accident. I had rehabbed a few different injuries, competed in a bodybuilding show, and decided to go back to powerlifting. And the motivation to go back to powerlifting was, number one, to prove that I could. And number two, the all-time best squat by a Canadian was only 7 kilos better than my best. So my best squat was 805 pounds. The record was 824. And at that point, because I did all the bodybuilding training and I was healthy, I didn't have any hip or knee issues like I had before. I was like, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and I'm healthy. This should end really well. I did this meet as kind of like a tune-up. I was supposed to go in, hit some really easy attempts, and then be ready for the actual record attempt in December. And this was in July, sorry. On my third attempt at that meet, I lost my balance and ended up with my shoulders a little bit forward over my feet, and my knees just buckled forward, and I had to dump the bar behind me. Fluke accident. It was a weight that I had done for 3 reps before, so it wasn't even like a maximal attempt. It was 750 pounds. But if you're off by an inch, you're off by a mile. Felt like 2 hammers hit me on the top of the knees. And I am forever grateful for that, because it was a phenomenal opportunity to fortify my identity as someone who does hard things. I remember it very vividly that I had accepted how messed up I was before my chest hit the floor. I was like, I know I'm messed up. I can do this. It's okay. But then when they rolled me over, they got me up, brought me to the back, and I made eye contact with my wife. That right there, that broke me, because I knew that even though I could do this physically, the burden was on her. Because I couldn't walk. I couldn't get I was in a wheelchair, so I couldn't get into the bathroom. I couldn't get to a toilet. I couldn't get to a shower. I couldn't make my own food. I couldn't even, if I dropped something on the floor, I couldn't even pick it up.
Yeah.
And this was going to be 6 weeks of that. And it was all on her. And that kind of broke me. And then you talk about good dude, good dad. I would consider myself to be a good dude, and I use this as an opportunity to be a better dude. But the one thought that was going through my head when I was sitting in the hospital, I remember waking up from the anesthesia after the surgery. And once I kind of got myself sorted mentally, I looked at my wife, and the only thought going through my head was, because I knew we wanted to start a family within the next year, was, if this prevents me from playing on the floor with my kids, I'm a piece of garbage. That was the biggest motivator for me to take full control over the situation. And even now, the transition into tactical games and running and being more fit is, at 255 pounds, I'm not playing. Dad, you want to play on the floor? Oh no, my knees hurt, my ankles hurt, my back hurts. Now I'm rolling around on the ground. We're getting after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, fitness is just such a beautiful representation of what manufactured hardship can do to your mind and your body.
Yeah. Paul, let me ask you though, because in our experience so far in these conversations, and I think for listeners, something that's useful is, like, where did you as Paul get that ability to be able to do that? Because there's, think about it. Everyone has a victim mentality, right? There's always a sob story. Jordan had a freaking stroke and almost died. And
It's a pretty good sob story, to be honest.
It is, but he flipped
excuse
it,
when I
right?
messed
He's a good
up.
excuse. Yeah.
He does use it now. He's like, dude, I'm sorry, I forgot I had a stroke. Like, and we joke
spelled
about
that
it,
wrong?
obviously. But like, the serious question though is, there's a lot of people out there that would have just quit and given up. And where did that come from for you specifically? Like, where did you get that fight?
I think I always had the ability to do hard things, but the motivation to do hard things has completely changed over time. So I think, like many young men, I grew up with the notion that my value was only associated with my outcomes or my production. So my motivation to compete in powerlifting was to get validation from others. And when I was one of the best in the world, people loved me. They wanted to be around me. It was great. When I was exceeding in my profession, it was, oh, these kids love working with me. I'm getting a lot from it. It's very much, as much as I was giving to it, I was also taking the validation as well. But in 2019, 2020, I was previously married, and that marriage fell apart for a number of reasons. But the biggest reason was I didn't know myself. I didn't have a sense of truly who I was. And I didn't understand why I kept pursuing the things that I was pursuing, because in a lot of ways I wanted them, but the motivation to get them was purely for validation. Mm-hmm. And it was through a lot of therapy, a lot of reading, a lot of education, a lot of introspection. I remember journaling for hours a day. I came to the realization that I didn't really know who I was, and my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions had zero alignment. And so I worked over the next few years to really dial into aligning my thoughts, my actions, and my feelings. And, you know, I have a tattoo on my arm of armor, and I used to think it looked cool, but now what I think is, well, that exterior that I built of tattoos and muscles and all this stuff, it was to protect me from the things that I feared most, which were my feelings. I didn't want to feel my feelings. And in learning how to do that, and then in learning how to understand those, and in learning where they came from, I got to a point where I could actually answer the question of who I am. And it's one of the questions that I ask a lot of the clients that I work with and the mentees that I work with is, if you had to describe to me who you were, but you couldn't use your family, your faith, your hobbies, or your work in that answer, who are you?
Dang.
That is a really, really hard question.
Yeah.
So when you ask me, how did I learn the tools to endure and to push through? It's because the motivation for specifically that rehab and then the bodybuilding competition that followed was, I need to do this to prove to myself that I am who I say I am. Because if I identify myself as someone who pursues hardship willingly or accepts circumstance and finds solutions, well, this is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
I really like that. So taking that, like how did that help transform you as like, because obviously you coached young men. You coached young men when you were a young man.
Oh, yeah.
And you did have those moments and you were feeling like we had joked about it earlier, like, you know, I took my coaching style over to Canada and it didn't play, you know? So how did you take us through that journey of kind of how you started and how these different pivotal moments in your life has changed how you coach and mentor those young men, especially ones that like you weren't necessarily built, like you said, you feel like you kind of grew up with that or just had that innate grittiness to you. But there's a lot of people that don't, and I'm assuming you've seen a lot of that as well.
I have seen a lot of that, and I think it comes from lacking purpose. I think a lot of people pursue things because they just happen to be good at them, or there's some underlying motivation there for either external validation or achievement that they're not getting in other areas of their life and that they can't give to themselves. So when I was in that 24, I would say 24 to 30, people would describe me as harsh and unforgiving. If you couldn't meet me at my level of get it done, I literally had no time for you. You were either going to put up or shut up. Like you're going to do it or I don't care. Then as I worked on myself and as I went through that transition period of introspection and truly understanding my feelings, it gave me a tremendous amount of empathy. And in my coaching practice now, I lead with empathy first. I coach the person before I coach any program or any sort of curriculum. Because until you understand who's in front of you, you don't know what that person needs in that moment. And in a lot of instances, they don't know what they need in that moment. So a lot of my role as a coach or as a mentor comes down to helping someone else navigate the same process that I went through in a way that I use their business or their training or their nutrition as the vehicle to kind of unlock or illuminate the questions that we're trying to answer. So, as I transition to these stages of my career, I find myself now, the analogy I can provide is I used to live this life kind of like an RPG. Like think Call of Duty, first person shooter game. You're just going through the game. I didn't really think about much. I would just go in through the game. Then I was in a period where I was an observer of the game. But as the observer, I would pass a ton of judgment on the things that I was doing. And now I'm an observer, but I'm a curious observer. There's no judgment attached to it. There's just, hey, you did this thing. Why did you do that thing? What were you feeling at that moment? Why were you feeling those feelings? How did those feelings impact your behavior? Is this in alignment with your values? If yes, great, move on. If no, well, now we need to dive deeper and we need to make a plan for how to make adjustments in the future. And that opens up the conversation of values. Another exercise that I have a lot of my coaches and mentees go through is assign your top 5 priorities in your life with the caveat that you cannot subjugate a priority that is that is above for one that is below. So for example, if I put my training above, or if I put my business above my training, that means that if I have an important meeting, I don't get my workout in that day. But if I put my fitness first, that means I have to get my workout in regardless of whether I have a meeting or not.
Yeah.
Same goes for, people will often put their families above themselves. And personally, I think that's a mistake. And there's arguments to be made on both sides, and everyone's life is different. There's no judgment attached to this. But my priorities are my own mental health, my wife, my family, my own health and fitness, and then my business is 5th. And that would sound funny as someone who is very entrepreneurial and who focuses a lot on business as part of the way he lives his life. But I don't miss meals. I don't miss training sessions. I don't miss date night. I never miss a day of journaling. And I make everything work within my priorities. And that means that if my wife asks me to do something, but it's going to negatively impact my mental health, I tell my wife no. Yeah. And I don't think many men, especially men, have the requisite confidence in themselves or the awareness in their own value system to set those boundaries.
Yeah, I would 1,000,000% agree with that. And it's something again that we see often, and it's from all walks of life. But you already kind of hit it on the head. But a lot of guys, we're speaking to guys. Women too, but this is predominantly male. So we're speaking to those, and we see often that people try to attack life without a plan. And if you don't have a plan, how can you attack? And if you don't understand war or anything like that, like there is always a plan. If you're a business owner, you have a quote unquote business plan. If you're a firefighter, there is a plan in place. Just like there's evacuation routes. There's all these things that require a plan. There's a plan to your vehicle. There's a checklist. How do you think all these other things require a plan, but you're going to walk through life without one? And I think what you just said is powerful in itself. And if you're down, you should break that out for people. You have your priorities. Like, how did you? This is a loaded statement, but how did you yourself break those priorities down for you? Because you said it's going to be different for every person.
It's going to be different for every person, but I'm a big believer. We talked about faith prior to the podcast, and while I personally would not consider myself a man of faith, I very much look at my life from the perspective of my actions create the life that I'm living. So if I am the architect of my life, you mentioned a plan. Architects have plans.
Yeah.
So in order to understand the plans of a building, I need to know about the irrigation system. I need to know about HVAC. I need to know about, structure. All of these things can be analogous to the different things that we have going on in our lives. And if I take personal ownership over my life, I think one of the ways in which I was turned off from religion as a young man was the idea that we need to give it up to God. And I saw people be very hypocritical with that. Whereas in my own view of my life, if I take personal ownership, then everything else has to follow suit. So that's why I put myself first. I put my mental health, my well-being first. Because if I do that, then I can show up better for others. And another way that I would identify myself is I am a man of service. I serve others. That is a main tenet of my identity, is my service of others. But I cannot pour from an empty cup. I would much prefer to pour from the overflow of my cup. So I need to make sure that my cup is always full. Then I had I don't even know what word to use, the eternal gratitude and luck to meet my wife. This is a person who has seen me, held space for me, encouraged me, supported me from the moment I met her. And if I didn't put her directly under me in my priority list, I would be doing her a disservice. And just for clarity, on my wife's priority list, she is first. I am second.
Yeah.
And we're very much aligned with that. So I devote everything under, like the first bit of overflow from my cup goes to my wife. She will always be, we'll say, first after me.
Yeah.
My family is also something that's very important to me. The decision to move to the US was a very challenging one because now they're 14-hour drive away. And my brother has 2 children. I have a niece and nephew that are just amazing young people. And I knew that one of the sacrifices that we were going to have to make in our move was less time with them. But when I'm looking at the priority list that I'm going through, it's also, what vision of a life do I want to live? Like, we have to reverse engineer everything. So you can't really narrow down your priorities until you narrow down the vision that you're shooting for. And the vision that I was shooting for was that I was fulfilled in my relationship and my career. I had the opportunity to build and grow a family that I could be present and participating within. And then I was setting us up for a future in which we had the freedom to choose. And that also comes down to my definition of success. My definition of success in my life is I want to do what I want, where I want, with who I want, I want to do what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want. And if I compare that to my list of priorities, there's alignment there.
Yeah.
And then when I compare those priorities to the schedule that I keep on my laptop that's always open beside me, I know my priorities in order because they're all in my schedule and they're color coded and I can see them. So that, like, I'm a very pragmatic person, as I'm sure you can understand. But it all starts with, like, you have to have a vision, you have to take ownership, and then you have to realize that every decision you make is going to create the life that you live.
Yeah.
So we need to take really good care over those decisions that we make and make sure that they're in alignment with our values.
What's up, guys? Quick break. This is Jordan from Good Dude, Good Dad, and huge shout out to our sponsor, BioPro. Ben and I have been on for a while now, and we actually both kind of ran out at the same time, which was funny. So we had a little break, and I could tell you what, once we hopped back on, man, we were feeling so much better. We were just talking about how we're sleeping better. I feel it in my recovery, hanging out with the kids, trying to get back in shape. I was driving up to Northern California and back, and so I don't feel the fatigue that I would normally feel, all thanks to BioPro. So use the code down below to get a discount on your order. Next, Hidden House Coffee. Use code GD to get yourself 1, 2, 10 bags of coffee. You gotta stay hyped. We're working on something pretty cool with them. Hopefully have some good dude, good dad coffee. But thank you guys for listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe. And now back to the show. That's awesome. I mean, we talked pretty heavily about those exact things. Like, I personally have seen more times than I can count, like going back just to the religious side of things where it's like, give it to God and then use that as an excuse to not take ownership of their own actions. And it's like, it almost plays back to when you had that moment where you tore your quads and you said you looked at your wife and you go, crap, now it's on her. It's like a lot of people just don't even think that it's like your actions do have consequences, even if it's not just for you. It's for like, this is where the dad part plays in for your family, And just like you said, like once I've made that realization and then played it into now I can't play with my kids on the ground and then played it to, okay, now I'm going to make those actionable changes. Ben and I have had countless conversations where we say, you need a filtration system in which you live your life, where you filter decisions through that, exactly what you said, your priorities, right? If it, I can't pour from an empty cup, is it going to affect me? No. Is it going to affect my wife? Yes or no? Is it going to affect my kids? Yes or no? Is it going to affect my business? Yes or no? Is it a good idea for my whole vision for my family? Let's go. Is it a good idea for, my whole vision for family? No go, or if it hits no at any point in there, it's an automatic no. It's an automatic stop. And it's like, I love that it's so cool to see other men and other coaches get to that conclusion. And it's just like, I mean, I joke with Ben, I'm like, we talk about stuff, but also like we're living it. So in some ways, some of this is still just a theory because I won't know until I'm on my deathbed whether or not it all played out or not. And so to hear people saying something very similar, even somebody who, let's say, religiously doesn't believe the same way that I believe, but we're coming to that conclusion, I'm like, dude, that's so cool. That's something that's like, hey guys, like, if you're listening to this podcast regularly, you've heard me say it, you've heard him say it, now you're hearing someone else say it. It's like, take note, write that down.
It's probably going to get annoying for people, but Paul, like, it's so sick because all of us that are in this space that we're interviewing, right? We're all doing very similar things, but very different. But all of our goal is to just make better men. And if you're hearing the common freaking theme from every single episode, there's a couple, but have a plan, take control of your own freaking life and all that comes with that. And 3, you have to figure out what you want for your life. You can't let anyone else dictate that for you. If you let your wife dictate that for you, if you let your dad or your mom or your work, it's going to fizzle out. It's going to burn out because it's not yours. And I know it sounds so stupid and cheesy, but taking care of yourself first, just like a airplane and putting the mask on yourself first, like how can you help other people if you have no oxygen? Like it's impossible. You can maybe help them for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 years, but at some point that's going to be gone. And then what good was that?
I think if you live your life like that, you lack purpose. And when you have purpose, you can endure. Like the quote is, I believe the quote is, if you have a strong enough why, you can endure anyhow. Mm-hmm. So if my purpose in my rehab process was to make sure that my wife didn't have to spend a single day more caring for me because I didn't want to have her burdened by my injury, well, I would be doing her a disservice if I didn't put all of my effort into that. And I still remember to this day, she woke up one day, I still couldn't get up the stairs to get in bed. So I was sleeping in a hospital bed in my office. She woke up and I was making my breakfast in the kitchen.
That's sick.
And I saw her shoulders just drop like 3 inches. Just like, she made her coffee. She got on the couch. She started reading her book. I sat down beside her and I said, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that was really special for me. Or when I, at that point I had a walker, which I didn't even use past that day because it was stupid. But she saw the commitment and she was totally fine with it. And I think, another challenge for a lot of men is like being a burden on other people is probably the most vulnerable position that you could ever find yourself in.
Yep.
That was so hard for me. And I mentioned how amazing my wife is. So there was one night where she was visibly stressed. She has a full client load. She's one of the best coaches I've ever met in my entire life, working with some amazing people. Full client load, taking care of the house, taking care of me. And she was getting my nighttime supplements ready and my glass of water. And I could see that she was visibly stressed. And I said, hey, like, you being so stressed is making me feel like crap about myself. Mm-hmm. And she turned to me and she said, I understand that, but I can't add your feelings about my stress to my plate right now.
Dang.
And I was like, whoa, that's right. Because my feelings are mine. They're not yours.
Yeah.
And this is a woman who was showing me all of the love and support that she had in her heart in prepping my meals, getting my supplements ready, emptying my piss jug. Dude, she had to wipe my butt in the hospital. Like,
Yeah.
That's vulnerability right there.
100%.
And I'm going to be sad that she's stressed about it. Like, do I expect her to be happy about all this stuff? And I'm so grateful that she had the balls to say that to me. And I was like, yeah, this is on me. I appreciate you. Thank you. I love you. Good night. Yeah. And, purpose is a beautiful thing. And you can only have purpose when you truly understand who you are. If I assign raising the bar as my purpose, that applies broadly to everything. And you don't have to have a mantra or a mission statement to your life. Although I would say that it simplifies a lot of things. But if you have purpose, you can endure so much hardship. And as a man, I think you should take a lot of pride in your ability to endure hardship. I think
yes,
your ability to be firm when others are breaking down, I think that is a tremendous trait to possess. But when you talk about those guys who are working 70, 80 hours a week and their health is falling apart, I think there are seasons of life where you maybe have to do that if your circumstances demand it. And you can do that to a point, but you will burn out. Mm-hmm. Those men who can do it forever have purpose.
Yeah. Something's driving them.
Something is driving them. There's something within them that they are seeking. That, dopamine is a seeking hormone, neurotransmitter. So if you're constantly seeking something, that purpose, you'll do anything to get it.
Yeah, which is a dangerous place to be at some points.
It's the same way in the fitness field, people talk about motivation a lot. I'm sure you guys run into it all the time. Oh, I just don't have motivation. I need more motivation. I think motivation it's a step in the process. So when I'm a big fan of Chris Williamson, great, phenomenal guy. There's a lot of great theories or analogies that he uses to conceptualize life. And I would say that motivation is rocket fuel. So when you're trying to get off the ground, you're going to use any amount of rocket fuel that you possibly have to break inertia. And for a lot of men, I think that's self-hate. I think that is anger. I think that is more so what we would associate with negative aspects of motivation. But sometimes that's the most powerful fuel that you have. It's all you have at that point. And that might get you into the atmosphere. That might get you off the ground. But then you get to a point where that's really harmful and you have to switch fuels. So you drop off that fuselage and you switch fuels. And that's a transition period in your life. And then you get into space and you don't need that thrust anymore. And you've kind of established who you are. I would call that discipline. So you go from motivation and you use that rocket fuel to develop the habits that will get you to where you want to go. And eventually, the discipline that you have in the adherence to those habits aligns those habits to your identity. Mm-hmm. Then they no longer require discipline. They are just who you are and what you do. So people often look at my life and say, you're so disciplined. I'm sitting here on a podcast with you. I have a meeting right after this. And in between that, I'm supposed to have a meal, but I don't have time to go make it. So I'm sitting here with a meal made right beside me so that when I get off this podcast, I can eat my meal. You're like, man, you're so disciplined. It's like, no, that's just who I am and what I do. It required me zero additional effort to do that. Yeah. And that's the transition point that, in our coaching work, we're trying to get our clients to that work. So when I say vehicle for personal development, I'm going to take you from that motivated stage and I'm going to teach you the habits and I'm going to show you what discipline looks like so that eventually you become the person who has achieved the goal already.
Yeah, I love that. Dude, we're going to have you come back on because we want to be very respectful to your time.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Dude, like we used to say in the Marine Corps all the time, proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
I love it.
And
I love I love alliteration.
Yeah, but it's so real. Like you have your meal, you have things prepped. Like guys that are listening, girls that are listening, whoever's listening, the common theme between all these people are very similar in their own different ways. They're all the same core principles. So if you've been a listener of ours for a while and you still haven't like made that first step to get a little active, to find that motivation, to find that rocket fuel, like you're missing the mark here. You're missing the entire point of what we're trying to do. We're not telling you to wake up one day and become Paul. We're not telling you to wake up one day and become Jordan or Ben. We're telling you to wake up one day and take that first step. Get your butt in gear. Find what it is to drive you, that motivates you. Find your why. Find your purpose. And through that, you'll be able to actually start putting together these tangible steps and these goals that you can hit. And, Paul, thank you so much for sharing all this stuff, man.
Pleasure.
We didn't get to ask you a lot of stuff.
No, I'm gonna circle back on one touch, and I'm just gonna ask you one question at the end. Sure. I love how you just tied that back into sometimes the negative. You need that negative to get you off the ground. It's like you sometimes you looped it right back to in the beginning. We were talking about building muscle, and you need that discomfort just to initiate that muscle building process. Sometimes you need that negative, that discomfort in your life, realizing it's not going the way that you want it to go, to disrupt you enough to make that movement. So it's just like building a muscle, just like everything else. You got to have that disruption somewhere where it pisses you off just enough that you want to make a change. So let me ask you one last question, Paul, then we'll let you get off of here. What is one actionable step you would give someone today if they were trying to be a better version of themselves or a good dude, good dad?
I would put it on paper what that means to you. I think having a clear idea, at least to start, right? Because I think who we want to be changes over time, especially as we learn and grow. But in the same way, like if you're using your car's GPS, it's not going to work unless you have put a destination in.
Yes.
The next step to that destination is also putting in your starting point. So getting really real about where you're at right now, being honest with yourself. And that might be hard because where you're at potentially might bring some shame or some guilt or other feelings. But if you own that and then you start to look at that vision of who you want to be, the steps to get there become very clear. And I love the analogy of a GPS because we can take wrong turns. You know what it's going to say? Rerouting.
Yeah. I like that a lot too.
And you can just keep on going, rerouting as many times as you need to. You only fail when you stop.
Yeah.
So just put some vision of where you want to go in your head, and that'll become more clear. It'll be blurry at first, for sure. But as you start moving and creating momentum, it'll become more and more clear. And you'll recalculate less and less. Your decisions will be more accurate. And it'll take less time than you think to get to a place where you're relinquishing those feelings of guilt and shame.
I love that. That was a great way to end that. Paul, for our listeners, where can they find you on Instagram?
Yeah, you can find me at Paul Oneid on Instagram, PaulOneid. Our coaching company at Master Athletic Performance. And then if you are a coach and interested in continuing education or mentorship, at Coach's Corner U.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then, Paul, did you say you had a podcast as well?
I do. Yeah. The Coach's Corner University podcast. I always tell people the podcast is the most selfish thing that I do about my business, because I just talk to cool people whenever I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And I like to showcase, great people who do great things for great people in the coaching
Let's
space.
go.
We'll link all of that. Well, Jordan, I'm not gonna say we. Jordan will link all of that stuff.
Ben has to spell check everything I do.
But it's his stroke. Forgive him.
Yeah, you got a stroke.
Well, Paul, thank you, man. I'll put everything down in the show notes. And as always, guys, be a good dude, be a good dad.